Ladies and gentlemen, now we are entering to the second chapter of this year's Balkans and Black Sea Forum, entitled New Order and Trends in Regional Connectivity. That will be a very interesting panel because now we move from the geopolitics and the politics in general, and now we have to touch base in what concerns the regional connectivity and especially what happens now in the hubs of the Southeastern Mediterranean and Black Sea regions, the progress of the Belt and Road Initiative and the prospects, the synergies between the BRI and the EU's Global Gateway Plan. So this, in this panel, we will have the honor to have by a number of speakers. So I would like to ask Mr. Yang Tai Kim, Dr. Yang Tai Kim, the Secretary General of the International Transport Forum, to the panel. Then I would like to invite Mr. Philippe Lorans. He's the Director of International Relations of the International Union of Railways. Mr. Lorans is coming to the place of Mr. Daven, who missed his flight yesterday. So he will be representing Mr. Daven and, of course, the International Union of Railways. We will also have Mr. Dr. Elias Lekos. He is the Group Chief Economist and Head of Investment Strategy of Piraeus Bank. Dr. Sun, the Vice President of China Foreign Affairs University. Dr. Huang, the Executive Director General of the Fudan Institute for Belt and Road and Global Governance. The Ambassador Nurgaliyev, the Chairman of Foreign Policy Research Institute of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Kazakhstan. And of course, last but not least, Mr. Dr. Hendrik Boshammer, good friend and the project manager of Southeast Europe of the OECD. The specific panel will be moderated by the co-chair of the organizing committee of the Balkans and the Black Sea Forum, Ambassador ad London Michael Christidis. So please, the speakers, to take your seats. Ambassador Christidis, the first seat will be here. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome also from my part as the co-chair of the Balkans and Black Sea Forum. And of course, as usually is the case, the co-chair never has the exposure of the chair of the forum. So let me introduce myself to most of you who don't know me. I'm a retired Greek ambassador at my tender age, having served in the Greek Foreign Ministry for 38 years and another 6 years as the Secretary General of the Black Sea Economic Cooperation Organization headquartered in Istanbul. It's a great honor to discuss with the distinguished participants of this panel on the subjects which were mentioned by Mr. Balakakis. For anybody of you who did not understand it until now, safe global navigation is really under strain. And it's not only the conflicts or the wars in our immediate vicinity, but many, many more issues that make global navigation let me say, a freedom that we were exercising with no hurdles at all in the past, but which becomes every day more difficult. Let me mention also climate change and what it has done to the Panama Canal, where the performance of this canal has deteriorated drastically because of the lack of water and many other issues around the globe. So I kindly ask the members of the panel during their presentations to kindly take the podium. It is much better also for the recording of the relevant video, but it will also give a better, it will better underline what they have to say. And please, if possible, keep your interventions brief so that we can top off this panel with some interesting questions which hopefully will be addressed to you by the audience, but also, and I don't want this to sound as a threat, from your moderator also. So let me ask to the floor an excellent friend and a very distinguished gentleman, the Secretary General of the International Transport Forum, a forum that is perhaps the epicenter of what concerns transports, terrestrial, nautical, or air transport, you name it, worldwide. Mr. Jung Tae Kim is the gentleman that is the host of the biggest meeting of ministers of transport worldwide annually in Leipzig. And this is where I came to know him when I was the Secretary General of BSEC, and we had established a very close relationship. Thanks to him and to his agency, we learned a lot and we improved a lot. So, I'm so glad to receive you here in Athens again. Please, you have the floor.
So thank you for inviting me, and I'm very honored and happy to be here. And with Ambassador Christides, we had a really good friendship before the pandemic mostly, but after the pandemic we had some disconnections a bit, just like anyone else in the world. And I think now it's the time to re-establish the good relationship with the countries in this region, because every country that we are dealing with today from this region are members of ITF. So Balkans and Baltics and also Black Seas and even China and Ukraine, and we have now 66 member countries. So I will explain a bit with more about ITF for those who do not know yet our activities. And we have 66 member countries currently. We are intergovernmental body, so we belong to the governmental public sector, and we are administratively affiliated to OECD. So that's why I'm based in Paris and in the OECD building. And recently we are growing very fast. So despite the pandemics and geopolitical tensions, and ITF is continuing to grow. We are very young. In fact, we were created in 2006, so we are now only adolescent, I would say. So we are becoming adult step by step. And this year we have already 2 official applications from the new possible new members. So one is Oman from Middle East, and the other is from Latin America, which is Dominican Republic. This morning I got an official letter of intent from Dominican Republic side. So it's very good. And also we publish between 30 and 60 reports every year, because ITF is not ideological entity, not political entity. We are trying to be based on the evidence and analytic work. So anyone sitting around the table today can freely download our website, because we have a principle of free distribution of our work. And as Ambassador Christides mentioned, we have a largest gathering in Leipzig. So we have a date for this year. So from 22nd to 24th of May, and we will have our ITF summit. And this morning I had a meeting with the Greek Minister of Transport, and he promised to come to that meeting. So we'll be very happy. And in fact, at the ITF, we firmly believe that transport corridors are crucial for sustainable regional development by enhancing connectivity to economic opportunities. Transport exists to connect. Transport doesn't exist to disconnect. So in fact, as long as we we are talking about transport, we always think about connecting something, especially for creating synergies and benefits for the community and the global community. And especially connectivity's significance in today's economy is critical, with value chains being more interconnected globally. And especially thanks to the technical development and willingness to maintain a peaceful, friendly relationship among countries. And we see a bit of different reality these days, but basically we are trying to improve our system with such beliefs. And as the global economy focus shifts east these days, the trade patterns are changing, and with forecasts predicting a fourfold increase in freight by 2050. And trade between China and the EU is set to rise significantly. And alongside a rapid increase in intra-Asian trade as emerging economies climb the global value chains and affecting production and consumption patterns. So as we know, Eurasian continent is the biggest continent in the world, and basically a lot of exchanges are happening on this continent. So ITF's insight on enhancing connectivity. Recently we launched and finalized some project on connectivity issues. And so, for example, in 2019, already before the pandemic, ITF produced a detailed report on enhancing regional freight connectivity in Central Asia. So we focused on 4 countries in the region, plus Mongolia. So we dealt with Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, and Tajikistan, Uzbekistan. And now, thanks to that report, Uzbekistan became a member of ITF, and Kazakhstan is already with us. So Mongolia joined the ITF, and I think Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan are not yet members of ITF, but definitely this region is becoming very important, especially in this critical moment of geopolitical tension. And the key point is the significant disadvantage landlocked countries face with a high cost due to their location, for example, Mongolia and Uzbekistan. And their connectivity level in terms of access to global GDP is almost half compared to the most developed economies. So all the countries have different contexts and different situations. And ITF, I didn't mention this 2 minutes ago, but one of our strongest the elements is that we deal with all modes of transport, not only focusing on the road or maritime. And this is the unique global entity dealing with all modes of transport. So we are trying to become a very efficient platform. And for that reason, the region's link to global markets greatly relies on the availability and efficiency on trade corridors. And current infrastructure investment strategies are designed to reduce the connectivity gap, but the planned investments are not enough to support all anticipated growth. And also there are unexpected factors in the future. So as you see on the screen, we made some modeling analysis in ITF. We have a strong modeling team. And as of 2019, we predicted this kind of, the information in 2030 and 2050. In the interest of time, and I encourage you to download our report from our website and go into the detail. And if you have any questions, I will connect to the authors and research team if you want to have more. And also softer ways to boost connectivity improvement is very important. So we usually think about creating infrastructure, building roads and ports and aviation, but in the global scene, border crossing issue is also very important. A lot of delay is happening at the border. So that's why we need to work also together with the World Customs Organization and other UNCTAD or any other kind of the trade and border regulation, the entities. So for example, improving border crossings can have outcomes similar to new infrastructure investment, and efficient border management is key to removing unnecessary delays and increasing predictability in border clearance. So even though you create a lot of infrastructure, and if there is a significant delay in border crossing, basically that really undermines our investment. And realizing middle corridors potential through targeted measures. So these days, after the outbreak of the war in Ukraine, and we started to disseminate policy briefs focusing on this region, and also supply chain and corridor issues. And one policy brief titled Transport Policy Responses to the War in Ukraine, an ITF team looked at the evolution of new trade corridors between Europe and Asia. And now it seems that the middle corridor becomes most visible as the alternative for the future. And we feel that a lot of reshuffling, restructuring of the corridors are happening around that region. So from Azerbaijan to Turkey, Turkey to Europe and Balkan and Black Seas. And I think all these countries are impacted and influenced. And ITFs is currently under the Lithuanian presidency. And from May, Chile becomes presidency. So Chile is from Latin America. It's a bit out of the European context, but the first vice presidency will be Azerbaijan. So Azerbaijan is already starting to focus on the middle corridor questions, and they are beginning to talk about these issues. And policy recommendations for sustainable corridor development, we made some conclusions on that, and priority connectivity over transit, and promote multimodal solutions and maximize the value for money, enhance sector knowledge, and adopt sustainability and resilience strategies. As we know, now we are adding more dimensions to the discussions on transport and mobility sectors, and we have to think about climate change, we have to think about digitalization, we have to think about so many factors, even gender and social, and already World Bank published it, I think it was in 2019, in the pre-pandemic period. The notion of sustainability is not only about environment, because it started with environment from a Rio meeting in early 1990s. But now we put 4 elements in the notion of sustainability. They are green, safer, economic, and inclusive. So when we talk about sustainability, we also think about economic benefits and also inclusion and so on. And we are running out of time, and ITF's holistic approach to new trend in connectivity. And I would like to focus on three elements as a new trend. So we need holistic visions. As I mentioned, we have to take into account so many more dimensions when we talk about so many things. And I think you all will agree on these issues. And connectivity and sustainability, and especially resilience, are very important issues. And this is just a small information to share, and we also recently started some project on freight connectivity regarding Asians and Southeast Asian countries. So funded by the European Union, funded by GIZ, funded by ASEAN and UNESCOP. So there are a lot of projects now going on in this the period. And one thing to highlight is also we are now more focusing on the situation in Europe, and the war in Ukraine is not about one country only, and it really dismantles the stability in the region. And if we have a broader perspective from China, even from Korea, even from Japan to Europe, and even to Spain, and even to Morocco, it's impacted. And if we apply One Belt and One Road and other initiatives coming from different entities, the questions are becoming really complicated. And I visited Kiev in December last year, and as we say, seeing is believing, and that's totally different from what I read in the media. And basically already reconstruction projects is happening. So when we talk about reconstruction, we usually think about future, but on a smaller scale, reconstruction of residential areas and small bridges broken. And I think everything is already starting to get normalized. And now countries are beginning to donate some money to ITF for research projects, because we have to provide them some recommendations and insights in the future. And I think, as you see on the screen, Sweden and Lithuania and Canada are taking the lead right now, but definitely other member countries will follow. And one information to share with you, and on the current Lithuanian presidency, and they will organize a high-level dialogue in Vilnius on the 10th of April, and focusing on the reconstruction of Ukraine. And it's the second chapter of this kind of dialogue, because we had one in Poland last year in Rzeszów in March, and at the time Canada already made an official commitment to finance some project, and project is now already has started, and definitely we will discuss more. And I know that they will organize a 3C summit and back-to-back with that high-level dialogue. So I think 3C includes, of course, the Black Sea, as I know. So there should be a continuation of the discussion, maintain the same logic and same, the consistent, the ideas. So I could not tell you so many things, but you can download some research papers from our website. And if you have some questions, you can always contact ITF, and maybe we will come back to you. Thank you.
Questions, yes. Thank you very much, Jungtai. So next on my list was Mr. François Daven, the Director General of the International Union of Railways. But as Mr. Balakakis erroneously informed you, he missed the flight. That's not true, because I'm sure that some of you might mischievously think that he missed the plane because he got a train from Paris to Le Bourget, but that's not the case. I think he was suffering from a virus always in our lives. Mind you, it was not the Ronald Reagan virus, the one that saves your date but forgets where it is stored. No, it was another virus. So instead, we have with us today, and thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Philippe Lorans, who is the Director of Institutional Relations and Coordinator of Asia-Pacific region of the International Union of Railways. Sir.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be invited so on behalf of UIC. So Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, I have a PowerPoint presentation. UIC, as you know, is the union of rail transport, with 200 members. I'll go quickly on this because I'm sure you know that we are grouping operators, rail operators, infra managers, and the mission is to promote rail transport internationally all over the world. So more specifically here, we are here today because international growth is happening with several players. And fact is that the road is the main player and is our competitor, but we are working hard. Rail is lagging behind, but the freight is being worked very much at UIC, with freight corridors being developed. So in Europe, we have the TEN-T project which is being developed, and we are leaving the patchwork situation, so there is some progress. And in the Asia, in the Middle East, the Eurasian connectivity is being taking place. So if we focus on these transcontinental corridors, as Dr. Jungtai Kim mentioned, we have several corridors. And because of the conflicts, the northern corridor, but also the southern corridor is not developing at the same pace. And we can see that the middle corridor is going to be developed and having some future and some developments which are very important for the Balkan region. So what's important here is that this development of corridors require a joint effort from all stakeholders. And for this, it's about promoting and raising awareness so that this corridor to connect Europe and Chinese stakeholders is taking place. It's really about cooperating and coordinating. So the stakeholders are numerous, and here at UIC we are coordinating all these players to strengthen the cooperation between the countries and between all the freight carriers. What's important also, it's about digitize and harmonize, which is not a nice to have, but a must have to develop and to improve this rail connectivity. So we develop operation. It's all about security, to ramp up the frequency, to improve the services, and to establish as an integrator, end-to-end transportation and a marketable product. So for this also, we work hard to increase the investment on the public transport in these fields. So railway, a backbone for seamless mobility, yes, and it requires to work with internally so that we minimize the complexity of this rail system, but also we work for interoperability between the various train routes and connecting also the various system and also guaranteeing, security in this age of digital. But it's also working with external interfaces. Multimodality is important. We must work with also all modes of transport because it's door-to-door transportation. And this includes also the ports, the road, and it's creating also securing common data models and exchange protocol with all these players. Okay, so telecom is an important backbone for a smarter network. So we are developing, FRMCS, which is going to replace GSMR. We have data exchange platforms, digital twins project. We are working also very much on the cyber security and automation ATO as tools. Okay, so one aspect also is really improving the cross-border and the multi-stakeholders operation. So today the railway undertakers have a local platform solution in place, and it's mostly covering intra-company data flows. What we are working at is for tomorrow to have an architecture and to cover inter-company and cross-border data flow. So it's complementary to the existing platform solution in place by railway undertakers, but also it doesn't compete, it's enhance and complement. So it's a plug-and-play solution, and it's provides, transfer and sharing operational data, no commercial, no customer data. So that's why it's really towards, operation improvement. Okay, so here are a few examples of digital platform use case where we work on digital train operation, digital train handover, the train composition, because you may know that a train is composed of several wagons from several origins. It's track and trace also with telematic wagon data, with the GPS technology, and also digital consignment note, where we have progress to make compared to other mode of transport. Here I give an example of RAME, which is a Middle East where we set a freight work program. So this working group, endorse and built and endorse a master plan to promote the freight transport in the Middle East, and they worked, also with the sustainability working group in the MENA Climate Week, and there is various action plan to analyze the standards, to set, the working plans for the standards and operational rules for this region. So it's about to develop a common vision and work program in this region with all stakeholders, and also coordinating with the other countries in the Asia Pacific, but also Europe. So the UIC freight activities, you know, it's open to our members, but also to non-members. We have many platforms, many forums where there is room and to share expertise, to share experience of our members, and also to access the tools which are developed for improved operation. Okay, that was it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Let me just add, Mr. Lorans, that I hope that the International Railways Union will assist the Greek government in its efforts to improve the safety of the railway infrastructure, and of course to restore confidence in train services here in Greece. We all know we are passing a very difficult situation. The minister today in the morning mentioned this, and we hope that with your support we will be able to overcome these problems in our railways here in Greece, which constitute such a vital part of railway connectivity in southeastern Europe. Next on my list, I have the pleasure to invite Mrs. Yisheng Sun, Vice President of the China Foreign Affairs University. Madam, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Distinguished Ambassador Xiao, Chairman Mrs. Janice Balakaskis, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's really a great honor to attend this Balkans and Black Sea Forum 2024. Since one of the themes of this session is the Belt and Road Initiative Review and Prospects, I will mainly talk about understanding the Belt and Road Initiative from the current global challenges. Why did I choose this topic? Because in recent years, we can see that increasing global challenges and deficits in different areas and different fields. Probably we need new ideas, new vision, new policies, and new action to deal with these challenges, especially peace deficit, development deficit, trust deficit, and global governance deficit. On another hand, we know BRI, as the initiative proposed by China, its influence has gone far beyond China. For BRI, actually, it contains a lot of new ideas to promote international cooperations and common development. Meanwhile, it can also provide some new ideas and new options for us to think about the current global challenges and how to deal with them. So accordingly, I will just focus on two parts. The first part, I will talk about the main global challenges, and next part, I will talk about the contribution that BRI may make to deal with the current global challenges. So what about the main global challenges? It seems we talk about them quite often. We face different kinds of global challenges, also different kinds of deficit. The first challenge is related with peace and security. The world is witnessing security deficit, peace deficit, and trust deficit. We can see that traditional security problems and non-traditional security problems have intertwined. Major power competition, geopolitics have become much more visible and much more common. Ukraine crisis and Gaza crisis actually remind us war and conflicts have been back to people's daily life. The world is still threatened by different kinds of conflicts and wars. So what's the result? Actually, it is rewriting the world agenda. On another hand, the world has become much more interdependent and interconnected. They are not only regional wars and conflicts, they produce a lot of spillover effects to other fields. So we can see that today the world is witnessing more confrontation and hostility, and less cooperation, less consensus, and less mutual trust. The second challenge is related with globalization. We see globalization is facing severe challenge. In the past almost 2 decades, globalization actually has been generally regarded as the general trend of the world, or we say the due course of the world. It's generally accepted and promoted. However, in recent years, we see a lot of clash of ideas. Deglobalization and anti-globalization, protectionism and isolationism, geopolitical competition and regional conflicts. It challenged the supply chain, industrial chain, and value chain. So global economic system, or we say global economy, is challenged by fragmentation and division. So this is probably one of the reasons why the forum of this year focused on trading arteries and global supply chains at stake. They are at stake. The third challenge is related with development. Developing countries never solve the task of development and modernization. And in many developed countries, we see the gap between the rich and the poor. They are actually producing social division and confrontation, and also the rise of populism, a lot of social problems, not only economy. And besides, according to the World Bank, for this year, the average income in more than 1/3 of low-income countries will stay below the 2019 level. So this is really a great challenge. Also, to fully implement the UN 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, strengthen global development cooperation, and how to bridge development gap are still very important and difficult tasks for the world today. Meanwhile, we need to keep in mind, development quite often is closely related with other global issues, or sometimes is the very root cause of many global issues, such as poverty alleviation, terrorism, environment, food security, so on and so forth. The fourth challenge is from global governance. The world is facing increasing global governance deficit. We often say probably the current global governance system, mainly formed and developed after World War II, needs to improve its efficiency and capability. It should be better reformed and improved. So we see the challenge from climate change, COVID-19 pandemic, economic recovery, food security, energy security, so on and so forth. So how to govern the world? So these are the 4 challenges I summarize for the world today. And next part, I'll focus on the contribution that BRI may make to deal with global challenges. We know BRI is proposed by China. It actually carries a lot of Chinese way of thinking, Chinese way of doing things, also some of China's experience and traditional ideas. First, BRI aims to promote international cooperation. And in such a world of turmoil and instability, it helps to strengthen cooperative atmosphere and cooperative language. Because for BRI, it does not set any precondition. It's open, it's inclusive, and it's equal. So all countries can join. So in this way, the whole process can be more flexible. That's to say, countries can produce a kind of cooperative language and then do it step by step and then work out to benefit both or benefit for all sides. Second, BRI focuses on connectivity and helps to promote the new round of globalization. Just now I said globalization is facing severe challenge. For BRI, actually, the main idea on connectivity just helps to better connect the world and link the world, just as our two speakers said just now, not only physical connectivity, but also soft connectivity. Third, BRI takes development as its priority and may help to solve global development issues. So when China proposes the initiative, one of the aims is to better share China's development with other countries. I think this is also what China has gained from its past experience, and also some of the lessons from its past development. Because in China, actually we say development overwhelms everything. So if you can solve the problem of development, and many other issues can be solved in a very natural way. Fourth, BRI sticks to the principle of extensive consultation, joint contribution, and shared benefits, or in simple language, plan together, build together, and benefit together. It's not a kind of who impose what on whom. It's a kind of joint efforts and joint benefits. So based on these four main principles and practice, I think probably BRI now, facing the challenges of the world today, it can provide some new ideas and new options for us to rethink about the global challenges and rethink some new ways for us to deal with the challenges the world is faced with today. So this is all what I want to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you especially for your last message. Together we can achieve a lot. Next on my list is Mr. Renwei Huang. I hope I pronounce it correctly. The Executive Director General of the Fudan Institute for Belt and Road and Global Governance. Sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's my honor to share my paper on the creation of BNR. We have 10 years experience of BNR, not only initiative, but also actions. So let's go on. I will point out 10 creations. So this is the creation of the world history. We have never had such an epoch-making project in mankind of history. It's from micro to micro, macro to micro, from East Asia to Latin America. So the space and time is never before. Firstly, this is a second version of globalization instead of first version of globalization. The first version of globalization mostly promoted by West developed economies. But the second version of globalization is mostly promoted by developing countries. China is play the leading role. Mostly the leading role shows one is the infrastructure construction. The second is green energy. The third is digital and the communication. And the new energy vehicles and some Chinese medicine. I also believe it is some creation. Second equation is share the opportunity of development. China as the number one manufacturer country and trade number one trade country and currency and reserve country, but its opportunity of development is still should be shared with other countries. This share of opportunity is not offered by the war or hegemony, but by the equal and the mutual benefit to promote the development. And the third is the block and the regional connection. The Belt and Road is not only is not some way of it's not a project over all the world. It's regional by regional, like Southeast Asia or Central Asia or Central Eastern Europe or Middle East, different blocks, not in the same time developed global wide. So it should be based on the different characteristics of the different regions. Then connected between the blocks will be the global wide connection. This is the different blocks around China. You see, not only in Southeast Asia, South Asia, Central Asia, Western Asia, but we also can find another big region that is Northern Asia. This Northern Asia mostly Siberia of Russia, but it's not developed yet. This is the region of Southeast Asia. So you can see the new railroads from China, Southwest China, to Asia countries.
Vietnam, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. I cannot move now. Okay.
Here.
So this is the cross-continent from East Asia to Western Europe. You can see this is between Western Europe and Eastern Asia, not only with China, but also can be connected with Korea, South Korea, and Japan. So it's maritime and the land transport lines combined. And for China, with the Belt and Road, we combine this inner market and outer market, two markets together. So Belt and Road give China some opportunity, also challenges, how to make two markets, two resources, two different structures to combine them together. It's also very difficult. And the western part of China and the frontiers of China got great opportunities with Belt and Road. Okay, I don't want to put all these things. And another thing is by the Belt and Road, China tried to reform the global governance, the system of global governance by gradualist reform. So part by part, regional by regional, not change the global governance in one period. We can do it bit by bit. Okay, and the other very important that is China is not put Belt and the Road in the old system of geopolitics. We use geo-economy and regional economic cooperation to overcome the difficulties from geopolitics. So many Western powers believe China is using Belt and Road as an instrument of geopolitics. It's not true. This is so-called India-Pacific theater by U.S., but we don't like this for Belt and Road. It's not. It's old geopolitical thinking. Okay. Also, we now facing a new concept of global south. So Belt and Road is constructing a new economic base for global south. Okay, I should stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you so much. We wouldn't be thinking to organize this event without the presence of a bank. And of course, being in Piraeus, whom else than the Piraeus Bank? Banks are always useful. You know, these are the institutions that lend you money if you can convince them that you don't actually need it. So, Mr. Elias Lekos, Group Chief Economist and Head of Investment Strategy, thank you for being with us.
Dear delegates, distinguished guests, first of all, I would like to start by thanking the organizers for inviting me to this forum. It's an honor and a privilege to be here and share my thoughts regarding the new order and the new trends emerging. And I think that the organization of this forum is extremely interesting, both on its timing and the focus of its topic, because I think that as a couple of previous speakers suggested, we are at a turning point. And I think that the world, Europe, and everybody will have pretty soon will have to face some very difficult challenges. And the way that we are going to answer these challenges will define how we're going to progress forward in the coming years. What do I mean by that? A lot of previous speakers refer to the concept of globalization. And it is indeed the fact that if you look at the past 3 decades, at least the past 3 decades, the main theme of the global economy was indeed globalization, defined as a period of economic development where global trade was increasing at growth rates far above the global nominal GDP. So when trade increases much faster than GDP, that means that the global supply chains are becoming more complicated, more complex, but also more efficient. This process had great benefits for everybody, both for the developed markets, but also for emerging markets. For emerging markets during the past couple of decades, especially since China joined the World Trade Organization, we see a record amount of people globally raised above the level of poverty. At the same time, we saw an acceleration in the pace of urbanization. When a rural population goes to large cities, it becomes much more productive and much more efficient. You stop working on the land and you start working on manufacturing, on technology, on activities with a much higher level of value added. So population overall becomes richer. And we saw that over the recent years. We have seen the emergence not only of China, which as we stand is the second largest economy in the world, but we saw the emergence of India, of Indonesia, of Brazil. So these were the benefits for the emerging markets. But also developed markets benefited handsomely from globalization. The inclusion of large economies such as China, India, Brazil into the global production process allowed the inflation in developed markets to remain subdued. This taming of inflation allowed central banks in the developed markets to use monetary policy in order to smooth the phases of the business cycle. So from the 1980s up until the great financial crisis of 2008, in developed markets, in developed economies, we had the era of the so-called Great Moderation. So this benefited the developed markets, this process benefited the developed markets as well. The point is that this process is by and large coming to its end. In developed markets, the working classes, the labor classes are being squeezed from the competition or from emerging markets, and the policies that have been adopted by developed markets try to alleviate the stress to the working class population, and at the same time, so this is the main driving force, according to my opinion, behind deglobalization, behind de-risking, the notion of strategic autonomy, and the emergence, for instance, in the US, of industrial policies. To me, this is something unheard of, because the US was the champion of a free market, where market forces would determine the allocation of capital. Contrary to past experience, now in the US, with the IRA Act, we have the return of industrial policies on a huge scale. This is a reaction, a political reaction to deindustrialization, to rust belts in developed markets. At the same time, we have, as it was mentioned, the emergence of Global South. Global South, which is not a geographical but a geopolitical term, refers to the need of emerging markets to assert themselves on the global arena, both on the diplomatic, political front, but also on the economic front. So, as we speak right now, we stand in front of these two challenges: deglobalization, which is driven by developed markets, and the global south, which is a reaction of emerging markets to the status quo. And as I said, the decisions that we're going to take will sort of define the world economic and political scenes in the coming decades. So, what will be a response to these both challenges? Well, it's nothing other than the topic of this conference. It's connectivity and economic corridors. Economic corridors, again, is a construct that refers loosely to policies that will promote efficient asset allocation, better resource utilization. They will allow countries to basically take advantage of their relative competing advantages to promote wealth and growth. And I know that we have focused a lot on hard infrastructure. And that's understandable, because this is visible. When we're talking about hard infrastructure, we're talking about railways, we're talking about roads, we're talking about ports. In the new era, we should also start thinking about electricity, connectivity, but also about data and optical fiber connectivity. So this is the hard infrastructure that economic corridors should be working to build and exploit. The other part or the less glamorous, if you want, part of economic corridors has to do with soft infrastructure. We're talking about digitalization, and that was touched upon by previous speakers. We're talking about harmonization of tariffs, custom controls, and all these things that are necessary to promote growth. And I think that a lot of people, for instance, right now focus a lot about the new corridor from India to Middle East to Eastern Mediterranean, but also, especially us in the European Union, we should start focusing on how the European Union can sort of create better links to the Balkans and the Black Sea area, because as the professor mentioned just now, and I found that an extremely useful and interesting quote. Development truly overwhelms everything. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lekos. Next on my list is Ambassador Bolat Nurgaliev from Kazakhstan. Now, you might ask, why Kazakhstan? Well, a look at the map will convince you that when we are talking about the Belt and Road Initiative, or generally about connectivity between East and West, perhaps the most important and certainly the biggest bridge to cross is Kazakhstan. So we're looking forward to your contribution, Ambassador. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Ambassador Christidis. Good afternoon, dear ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to be among the participants of this distinguished forum. I am sincerely grateful to the organizers, to the hosts, to the partners for the invitation and for making the excellent arrangements to make our deliberations successful. Dr. Yang Kim and other speakers already touched on the topic of my presentation, and I will pick up from the angle of not only Kazakhstan, but also our partners in Central Asia and South Caucasus. So, due to disruption of traditional transport and logistic supply chains, since geopolitical and geoeconomic developments triggered by February 2022 events, comparative advantages of using the so-called middle corridor for delivery of cargo from China to Europe and vice versa became evident. The middle corridor, also referred to, known as the Trans-Caucasus International Transport Route, on the east-west route consists of Trans-Asian Railroad, highways and ferry shipments network located, why it is called middle corridor, between North Corridor, that's Russia, and the South Corridor through Iran, which has been mentioned, is still in a planning stage. So for those in the audience who are interested in specifics, there are just very short details. It's a multinational, multimodal, 11,000 kilometers long route starting in the Chinese dry port of Xi'an and going further across Kazakhstan to the Caspian Sea ports and the Black Sea ports to European destinations. So in 2022, the volume of cargo traffic via the TITR increased 2.5 times compared to the previous year. And by 2025, it is expected to reach 10 million tons of cargo annually, increasing by more than 6 times in 4 years. So this happened because the parties managed to transform speedily trade and logistics configuration, giving the middle corridor the role of the main seamless land route for cargo traffic between China and Europe. For our Chinese partners, the TITR is wrought with lesser geostrategic risks and challenges compared to the northern and southern corridors. The middle corridor development is a natural and important part in the implementation of the Belt and Road strategic initiative, and we are happy that Beijing provides full political and economic support to the middle corridor. For our European partners, the use of the TI-TR is a viable solution given new realities and need to diversify delivery routes of goods from and to China. For example, as early as the spring of 2022, the Dutch Maersk and the Finnish Nurminen Logistics switched to the Kazakh railroad route leading to the Chinese border. The biggest advantage of the TI-TR is substantial time saving for cargo deliveries. The route is, if you look at the map, 2,500 kilometers shorter than the northern corridor. So the time for delivery is substantially saving, up to 7-8 days. Another important feature is that all states involved in the TI-TR enjoy quite friendly relations among themselves, guaranteeing that political risks are at a minimum and practical issues of everyday management result in a spirit of constructive cooperation. Still, I would be amiss if I do not mention existing problems hindering the current effectiveness of the Middle Corridor. These are A, high cost of transportation, B, insufficient level of infrastructural development, C, bottlenecks, stiffening smooth flow of cargo movement. In totality, these problems do not allow to shift to the TI-TR all the volume which was processed in the past through the Northern Corridor. One cannot deny that the effectiveness of the Russian option is ensured by the fact that for most part the route goes through the territories of the Eurasian Economic Union. These are member states with unified tariffs. And also there are some other advantages which make the comparison between northern and middle corridor rather interesting. For these logistics reasons, the TI-TR is considered costly, commercially challenging. Politically, there are also some problems because experts question the sustainability of the Middle Corridor, believing that once geostrategically the Northern Corridor would again be considered kosher, it is bound to return to its previous status of the main route. Dr. Kim presented policy recommendations, and we are aware of these recommendations, and we are preparing for such an eventuality, and the participating states are adopting urgent and specific measures to upgrade sustainability of the Middle Corridor competitiveness. The EBRD estimates that close to 3 billion euros investment is needed to further develop the project-related infrastructure. And money should go to exceed the processing capacity of railroads, seaports in Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, and Georgia. There are also estimates that maybe for the whole upgrading of the infrastructure, close to 19 billion euro might be needed. And so additional measures are to be undertaken to regulate tariffs, customs, and other bureaucratic procedures with the aim of offering the clients more attractive terms. So again, reacting to these problems, in November 2022, representatives of Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, and Georgia, and Turkey signed the roadmap for 2022-2027 to expedite development of the Middle Corridor and synchronize efforts to get rid of the bottlenecks along the route. These four countries decided to form a joint venture which would provide first-class intermodal transport and logistics services and harmonize trans-border tariffs. Much is expected from introduction of the platform to fully digitalized procedures related to movement of cargo from China to Europe. All these measures are aimed to ensure that the Middle Corridor does not lose its relevance when geopolitical problems of the Northern Corridor are gone. And final point, the TITR is a flagship of a renewed European Union strategy in Central Asia, complementary to the EU Global Gateway Initiative to ensure transport connectivity of our regions. Basing on the public statements of the European leaders, I believe that the EU commitment to develop the TITR will be long-term and will withstand different fluctuations, and hopefully same applies to our other partners. Thank you for your attention.
Ambassador, thank you so much. And forgive me because I failed to mention that Ambassador Nurgaliev had an illustrious career in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Kazakhstan. He was ambassador to the USA, to Korea, to Japan, to Israel, and he was the Secretary General of a very important organization, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So thank you for your expertise and knowledge which you shared with us today, Ambassador. Last, and as everybody says, definitely not least, on our list is Mr. Hendrik Boshammer from the OECD, project manager responsible for Southeast Europe. You have the floor, sir. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, and thank you very much for inviting me to speak today. On behalf of the OECD Southeast Europe Regional Program, I'll use the next 10 minutes or so to focus on connectivity issues and global supply chains for the Western Balkan region that we focus on mainly within Southeast Europe, our regional program. And I'd like to build on the insights from the OECD's competitiveness outlook for Southeast Europe. It is one of the largest assessments of policies that the OECD is performing, and we're performing that on Southeast Europe. We are looking at 15 different policy dimensions, and one very important area we look at are trade links and transport and energy infrastructure, and that is probably spot on in the context of the discussions we're leading today. I should mention that this work is funded by the European Commission. It's a support for which we are, of course, very grateful. Now, think about connectivity issues. We are looking at policies for planning infrastructure needs, for building a sustainable and resilient infrastructure, for ensuring efficient infrastructure markets, and finally also strengthening regional infrastructure connectivity. Probably that fourth element is the most relevant one here today, but the rest, I believe, is so too. In the interest of time, let me focus in each of these four elements on some of the key areas where we see key achievements, very positive developments in Southeast Europe, the Western Balkan region over the last years. And then let me also point out the way forward. So where have we elaborated together with our partners from our partner economies some recommendations for strengthening infrastructure going forward. Looking at the first element, which is planning for current and future infrastructure needs, we see some very encouraging progress when it comes to developing strategic plans for developing the transport sector, and that's in the different domains, air or railway, road, also maritime links. We also have seen that energy network development plans are in place in all Western Balkan 6 economies. And then also there are plans for broadening broadband development, better linking also the economies digitally, internally, but also externally. Yet, we do see that a number of policy areas or policies could be further advanced. And here we're mainly talking about implementation, mobilizing the necessary means to implement the policies, also following up, tracking, monitoring, taking corrective action. So it is really key going forward. We believe that the Western Balkan economies continue to monitor and evaluate the implementation of transport development strategies and making sure that the plans are delivered upon. Also, when it comes to transport project selection, we do believe that the Western Balkan economies would benefit from a comprehensive cost-benefit analysis to decide where to best invest and also to do a multi-criteria analysis that go beyond costs. Speaking about the second element, building sustainable, resilient infrastructure, we have seen encouraging progress when it comes to developing sustainability and resilience criteria to be included into the strategic plans. These kind of criteria, they have been recently added, and it's a very positive development that reflects also practices in other countries, in other regions. And I would also like to point out that the energy crisis that many countries worldwide are facing in the recent years has encouraged the Western Balkan economies to seek to improve resilience in the energy system against external shocks. So we see the economy is better prepared for external shocks, though some progress should be advanced even further. When we come to recommendations, well, we believe it is important that to systematically include resilience and critical infrastructure criteria into the policy frameworks, and that basically in all the different connectivity network or infrastructure plans. Coming to the third element, which is ensuring the efficient operation of infrastructure markets. Here we have seen some progress when it comes to advancing rail reforms in the Western Balkan economies, also making it easier for them to adhere to regional connectivity plans for railroad. We also have seen that the economies in the region have advanced their degree of implementation of the energy community, a key when it comes to infrastructure development in the energy or electricity market. On the recommendation side, we would recommend to adopt important reforms in the aviation sector, because here the implementation has been rather slow in recent years. And then also a recommendation that we think is key is that the integration of the electricity markets could be further advanced, that also will support the stability of electricity supply, which is key for citizens and industry alike. The fourth and final element that we have looked at is strengthening the regional connectivity for the Western Balkan economies. And here we have seen encouraging developments when it comes to strengthening regional connectivity by simplifying border procedures. So it is easier, it's quicker, it's less bureaucratic to export a number of products and to ensure the physical border crossing of merchandise. We believe it is key going forward to develop further policies combining the transport and logistics sectors in an integrated way to further allow for regional trade. And it's also important to detail detailed, credible roadmaps to further integrate the electricity market integration within the Western Balkans, but then also developing that region to the rest of Europe and, of course, the European Union. Let me just say a few words on some of the geopolitical challenges that we heard about. We all know about the ongoing wars and terrorist attacks, the climate change and challenges as rising energy costs and so on, and the toll they are taking on international and regional trade. We have at the OECD a policy tool that we provide to governments that helps them to address these kind of challenges from the policy side. We help the governments managing risk, minimize exposure to external shocks, building trust among actors across the supply chain, and keeping the markets open. I don't have much more time to go into detail here, but if you're interested to find about the OECD policy tools in these areas, please feel free to reach out to us. And finally, I'd like to point to some OECD work on the middle corridor. We have analyzed by means of an extensive survey among public and private sector representatives the bottlenecks for these actors to rely more heavily about the middle corridor, and we have also developed policy recommendations through private sector reforms, regulation and easing cross-border commerce, targeted infrastructure development, and a multi-stakeholder approach in enhancing connectivity. If you are interested in that topic, please feel free to come to me, and I'll be happy to point you to the colleagues who are working on that topic specifically. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Bushammer.